Afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining me. I hope you're having a great Odoo experience. I'm going to talk to you today about building communities with our favorite tool, Odoo. We know Odoo as a tool for organizing and operating businesses, but it can also be used for community organizing. And I think the combination of this tool along with online communities can help us build a decentralized future. And I'm going to show you some examples from a small scale on how we can use these tools to come together for a positive social change. And if you have any questions, scan this QR code and I'll take them at the end. So currently, we've experienced a tremendous amount of social change in a very fast amount of time. We can communicate with anyone in the world at any given time, and we can move across the world in a matter of days or hours. We're empowered by these tools of communication and transportation, but a lot of times people are using these without a lot of intention. And just as much as we can use these tools for change, these tools can come to influence and change us. So we want to push back and offer some ways that we could use these tools to create community and to create the type of change in the world that we actually want to see. So as we see these changes, as we have access to these tools, we see that culture is moving online. We're often looking to online communities to fill the void of the changes around us, some of the disconnection that we see and feel. But what we see is that these online communities, they're kind of niche and they're focused on a particular perspective. So we might not see a lot of depth or pushback on things that maybe we need to alter. Also, online communities come with a lot less social obligation. People might not necessarily show up when they're needed, for what they're needed for. And this online culture is also pretty susceptible to manipulation, whether it's through organized influence campaigns or computer programs that are meant to imitate human behavior and try to sell people something. My context comes from my adopted city of Detroit, Michigan, back in the States. And Detroit has a very interesting city, being the center of American manufacturing and innovation in the 20th century. However, with the deindustrialization of the area, it saw a massive population decline of about 66% over 75 years. So 2 out of 3 people left the area. From this, we saw an abandoning of buildings. We saw a dying of local businesses and a dropping in the standard of living and the cohesiveness of communities. But those who stayed were made stronger. A unique culture started to form, one that was focused upon using local resources and working together with your neighbors, developing a small-scale entrepreneurship or hustle culture, and a prevalence of mutual aid. So again, helping neighbors with the resources that were available at hand to deal with the problems that we saw around us. So can technology help us deal with these problems and offer solutions? I would say it can, but there's a few things we need to keep in mind. We have to be intentional about our use of technology. So setting a purpose, what's the outcome that we're trying to achieve? And using this technology then to broadcast that out to an audience. So we're not looking to convert people to change their minds, but to attract people who are already thinking the same thing and that want to see the change or the outcome that we have envisioned. And as we use these tools, we want them to be accessible. People to be able to easily use them, to not have high licensing fees, and for it to really create value for everyone that's participating. The goal is not to influence and monetize, but to empower. So I'm going to talk to you about a couple different tools. We'll get to Odoo in a second. But first, I want to talk about a social media company called meetup.com. So Meetup is geared towards people and teams to put together a group around a particular topic or interest, and then bring other people together at a particular time and place to do things together. So that's what it's geared towards, but it does offer you some tools for posting pictures, having discussions, the things that you would need to form a community. But ultimately, Meetup does control and own this platform, and they do charge some fees to participate. So through Meetup, I've been lucky enough to participate and help organize a pretty large volunteer community service organization called the Good News Volunteer Club. We have getting close to 4,000 members, and we try to have events at least once a month. So we've had dozens of events over the last couple years, doing things from participating in community kitchens and food pantries to doing neighborhood cleanups and tree plantings, participating and putting on events around holidays for kids that might not get to fully participate in those, and all sorts of things like that. So I think these pictures can probably speak for themselves about the impact that it has on those who have served and those who have been served. But I am a borderline obsessive Odooer, and I wasn't satisfied with just being on Meetup. I had to have my own Odoo site to test the limits on this event-based community building. Hence, this launching of Maxceleration.com. It is based on Odoo community, and we largely use it for events. The name was inspired by a local nonprofit that I'm inspired by called Mac Development. And it's also, the name also comes from one of our main streets, Mac Avenue, that runs through the neighborhood. And it's a combination or portmanteau of this idea of accelerated social change, hence Maxceleration. So I'm going to show you some examples on how we can use the tools within Odoo for these events. So our first example is going to be from this senior outreach day, where we utilized the different types of registration for Odoo events, so we can have both volunteers and beneficiaries register. And we can use the question features as part of that registration to gather a little bit of information, such as what sort of help the beneficiaries need. We also can utilize an OCA module to put the questions on a specific type of registration. My second example is kind of fun. It's for a community cleanup that was a combination scavenger hunt. So the idea was there was 100 items that you might be able to find out on the streets, and if you found those, you would get a point, and you could get a commemorative t-shirt. So to keep track of this, we utilized the online quiz feature in Odoo. So we put those 100 items in there, and as the teams went out into the neighborhood, they could keep track of what they had found. So up top, we see this picture of the teams meeting up at the local community center where Mac Development is based, and they're looking at a neighborhood map of the streets right around us in our neighborhood, and they're planning their teams and their areas of focus. And then we're seeing the outcome where we had a lot of fun, and we gathered a lot of trash, enough trash to fill a dumpster. And the neighborhood looked a lot nicer afterwards. My third example is a social media-powered sheltered dog walk. We had done this event a few times in the past, and after doing that, I had the idea of what if we had QR codes on these shelter dogs that link to their adoption sites. So people will often stop and look at the dogs. They have a bandana around them that says, adopt me, but not necessarily easy access to information on how they could adopt this dog if they wanted. I had the further idea that what if we could get people to take pictures with the dogs and post it on their social media, and that way we would even broaden the audience further. But I was a little bit concerned that the resolution of the QR codes would be lost in those pictures because the adoption sites have kind of a long URL. I also wasn't satisfied with the usual URL shorteners. I wanted it to work through our Odoo site. So we made a set of redirect pages for each dog in the Odoo site and put those on the QR codes. So if a person were to scan that QR code, very quickly they would go from our Odoo site to the adoption site, and we would also have some tracking of who had visited and from where. I like to think that this might become more widespread practice in the future, where in addition to that adopt me caller, that there's a QR code also there so that people could easily find that dog or animal and adopt them. My final example is going to be from our latest types of events. It's 2025, so a lot of us are playing around with these AI-powered coding tools. These tools allow rapid proof of concepts and prototyping of web applications or small programs from simple prompts. So you don't need to have a lot of technical skill. You don't need to be a high-level developer to kind of put together the particular type of website or tool that you need. But our goal is to create a lot of shared intention. And so we've focused upon a couple different aspects of this so-called vibe coding, this use of AI tools for rapid prototyping programs. So what we do is first we discuss what our goals are, what we've been working on, and that creates some social alignment. And then we create a shared GitHub repo so that we can exchange code and work on particular parts of the project and then combine those together at the end. And we call that village vibe coding. So we've done that event a few times and are gaining more people. It's a lot of fun. And we have some outcomes afterwards that we can then pick up in the future. And we've been really excited about this new network and protocol called Nostr for decentralized communication. Nostr stands for Notes and Other Stuff transmitted by relays. It's a way to send messages through a series of relay computers. So your message can't really be blocked, but you do have the choice on what relays you tune into and what types of messages you're going to get. So it's communication without a central platform, without monetization, without undue influence. And it is based upon public-private key pairs. So you can verify who this message was from. And you can also take your account across different types of platforms. It's kind of like a shared account, a universal account. So this will establish something of a digital identity, a pseudo identity, but you're not locked into just having one. You can create as many as you want. You can use them for different purposes. So in our most recent vibe coding, we've started to work on this idea. We call it the village vibe. It started as a Nostr-based replacement for Meetup, but we see a lot of other potential in it. So the concept is you would have a group, we call it a tribe, and people can join that. There are administrators in the tribe, and they have some elevated privileges that we'll talk about here in a second. Also, in this tribe, you can give badges. So you can recognize people for being good participants, for having a particular type of skill. And this can also be a hub for finding local services or products. So it's kind of a combination of all these different types of social media that we see out there on different platforms. And then you can post stories. So particular things that you think would be interesting to other people. And if the admin thinks that it's interesting enough to go out to the broader neighborhood, they can promote it to the village newsfeed. So that's kind of a shared newsfeed just based upon a tag. Nobody really controls it, but there is an admin involved to make sure that we have some control of a first level of spam. And it's up to people whether or not they want to tune into that village newsfeed, and if they want to no longer receive messages from a particular tribe due to spam or something else. So tune in to our GitHubs, follow along at home, and keep an eye out for how all of these things come together and add to this social change that we're seeing. So I want to thank Odoo for developing the amazing tool that they have, for the open source nature that allows us to build, use it, modify it. I want to thank my friends and participants who have come out to the events for everything that they've done, all the fun that we've had. And I want to thank you for your attention today, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thanks a lot. It was very interesting indeed and inspiring.
Thank you.
So I have one question for you, which is what were the challenges you faced in the implementation or in the usage of Odoo when you started, I guess when you started implementing Odoo with the others, etc. What kind of challenge did you face?
Third-party integrations are sometimes a challenge. Getting our email account connected, that took some time. When you're using third-party modules also, sometimes they give you errors or something like that. So this is kind of an experimental thing. I try to back up the database, have a staging environment, but there is a good amount of technical knowledge that goes into this.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. That was about it. But thanks a lot for the sharing, and thanks.
Thank you all. Bye.